The food was amazing, the spa was so relaxing, and the staff were incredibly attentive. The building and garden are so charming. I'm so glad I chose to stay at this hotel. Hearing those words of praise from a guest, accompanied by such a warm smile, nearly brought tears to my eyes. Thank you so much. It's an honor to hear that from our very last guest. The last guest. What do you mean? I had let that slip without thinking. But I could never have imagined that this guest would eventually take over our hotel. My name is Robert, 32 years old. I'm running a family-owned historic hotel, but right now, I'm struggling to keep it afloat. I inherited this hotel, Cozy, from my grandmother 5 years ago. Even back then, its financial situation was already dire. Over the years, I've tried various strategies to turn things around. The first priority was to attract more guests. After all, without guests, there's no income. I approached travel agencies for advice and suggestions on current trends and effective strategies. This hotel's rates are too high considering its remote location and outdated facilities. That makes it hard to attract regular customers. I understood their point and lowered the prices. While this initially brought more guests, the impact didn't last long. New customers rarely returned, and long-time regulars gradually stopped coming. Next, I tackled workplace reforms. We shifted from the traditional division of roles to a multitasking model, where staff handled various duties. The idea was that if every employee could handle multiple tasks, customer satisfaction would improve, and shifts could be organized more efficiently. But this plan didn't work out as hoped. From the employee's perspective, their workload only increased, with more responsibilities to learn and handle. And with Cozy's financial struggles, we couldn't afford to raise wages in line with their efforts. As a result, many staff members left, leaving only a few seasoned employees. Now I'm left with Linda and Patricia, two experienced staff, along with a gardener and our head chef. The only younger employee is Margaret, who's 28. Margaret manages everything from maintenance to housekeeping, and has acquired multiple qualifications to handle her tasks efficiently. It's the bare minimum staff needed to keep the hotel running, though luckily, the current low guest count has prevented complete operational collapse. I glanced at the reservation screen at the front desk. The calendar was blank, stretching week after week without a single booking. The travel agency representative who used to be supportive now greets me with a resigned expression. Your facilities are just too outdated. Sure, the restaurant and gardens are well maintained, but that's not enough these days. Renovations are out of the question, since no bank is willing to provide a loan. I let out yet another deep sigh, feeling the weight of everything pressing down on me. Robert, are you okay? You don't look well. Did you eat something bad? Seriously, all these sighs. Is everything all right? Linda and Patricia looked at me with concern. They've been working at this hotel since before I can even remember, having lost my parents at an early age. These two were like mothers to me. Both of them are over 60, but they're as energetic as ever, handling multiple tasks effortlessly. Linda had just finished cleaning the inn, while Patricia was arranging flowers in the entrance hall. It's such a lovely day outside, and it's really starting to look like autumn. How about taking a walk? Patricia pointed to the chrysanthemums she had cut from the garden. Exactly. Cozy is at its best during this season. Hearing Linda agree, I couldn't help but smile. Linda always says Cozy is at its best, no matter the season. And I couldn't agree more. Winter brings snow, spring the budding flowers, summer the breeze over clear streams. And now it's autumn. The late afternoon sun is starting to set, Its gentle golden light bathes the mountains and trees, and a breeze carries the faint scent of turning leaves. I left the front desk to the two of them and stepped outside. The garden was beautiful, but I decided to take a short walk. Walking out onto the winding mountain path, I turned to look back at Cozy. The modest entrance led to a garden, with a glimpse of the front door visible through the trees. I can't think of another place as calming as this. Why don't more guests come here? I held back another sigh and started walking uphill. The mountain path was quiet. A 20-minute drive would take you to a grand vacation home, but there was nothing else around. The nearest town was downhill, about an hour's drive away. Such an inconvenient location. No wonder, no matter what I thought, my mind kept drifting toward negativity. Then, from the shadows of the trees, a small woman appeared. She seemed to have come down a narrow trail cutting through the woods. Oh my, I finally reached the path. Is Cozy still ahead? The woman looked around and addressed me. Hello. I believe there's a place called Cozy around here. Do you know it? Yes, that's us. Are you planning to stay? I answered reflexively, caught off guard by the sudden question. Her refined manner of speaking suggested she was around Linda or Barbara's age. Yes, I'd like to stay. I didn't make a reservation, so even a small room would do. She brushed cobwebs and leaves off her clothes as she spoke. Her outfit wasn't suitable for hiking. It looked expensive but more like indoor wear than something for the outdoors. Why had she walked through such a rugged trail? It felt odd, but we have rooms available. Thank you for staying with us. By the way, is your companion arriving by car? Oh, it's just me. But don't worry about payment. She said this while pulling out a small embroidered purse from her shoulder bag. It was a charming pink wallet with beadwork. The phrase escaped from a retirement home, popped into my mind. But no, there wasn't such a facility nearby, and she probably had her reasons. That thought felt disrespectful toward a guest. I shook my head and refocused. My apologies. Of course, we welcome solo guests as well. Let me show you the way. I nodded slightly and started walking. That cute little wallet didn't look like it held much money. At the same time, I felt she might be Cozy's last guest, so I asked Linda at the front desk to prepare the special room. Please show her to the garden room. Oh my, how wonderful, Linda cheerfully said, and rushed off to prepare the room. I informed the elderly woman that the room might take a little time to get ready, and guided her to a bench overlooking the garden. The maple tree at the far end of the garden, illuminated by subtle lighting, stood out against the darkening sky. Oh, it's beautiful. The way the maple glows softly, not too bright, it's enchanting. The elderly woman murmured with admiration. Thank you. Instead of lighting up the entire garden, Margaret came up with the idea of subtly illuminating only one feature each day. She got the idea as a cost-saving measure, but it's both magical and delightful, offering a new experience every day. Of course, unless someone stays for consecutive days, they wouldn't notice the daily changes. Just then, Patricia arrived with tea. Here you go, herbal tea. Thank you, I'll have some. I've been walking, and I was thirsty. The elderly woman took the tea, looked a bit surprised, and then sipped it slowly until the cup was empty. The tea is kept hot, so please take your time. Patricia said this as she refilled the now empty cup with more herbal tea. Seeing the elderly woman nod with a warm smile, she continued, Do you have any preferences for dinner? Thank you. I'm not picky, so anything is fine. But tonight, I'd prefer fish over meat. We happen to have fresh rainbow trout, just before the fishing ban. Oh, that's perfect. I was just hoping for some trout tonight. Wonderful. as Patricia and the elderly woman continued their leisurely conversation. I headed to the kitchen. Head chef, oh young master, it's been a while since we've had guests in the garden room. Rainbow trout, is it? Yes, let's go with trout. Afterward, I called Linda via the intercom to check on the room and returned to the front desk. Thank you for waiting. Let me show you to your room. In the garden room, a special suite, Linda had just finished inspecting the private jacuzzi. Linda concluded her explanation of the room with, "The jacuzzi is ready for use. Also, we've provided a set of undergarments next to the bathrobes. Please feel free to use them. Dinner will be ready in an hour." As always, Linda and Patricia's service felt like magic to me. It might have been a while since we had guests, but perhaps I was the only one feeling sentimental. Linda, Patricia, and the head chef all remained calm, delivering their exceptional service as usual, making the elderly woman feel welcome. Toward the end of dinner, I went to greet her. The food was delicious, the jacuzzi was wonderful, the inn attendants were so attentive, and the building and garden are lovely. I'm so glad I came here. Hearing her say this with a contented sigh and a radiant smile, I felt overwhelmed with emotion, almost to the point of tears. Thank you. It's an honor to hear that from our last guest. The last, the elderly woman repeated, and I realized I had let something slip. I couldn't bring myself to respond. Fortunately, she didn't press further, and continued. By the way, this is cozy, isn't it? My grandchild works here. Is Margaret off today? What? Your granddaughter is Margaret. Oh, excuse me. Your granddaughter is Miss Margaret. The name recorded in the guest registry was Sophia Jones, and Margaret's last name was also Jones. Margaret. No, Margaret Jones. Right. She's in charge of facilities and lighting. The maple tree illumination you saw earlier was her work. Let me call her. I took out my phone and called Margaret. In the garden room, there's a guest named Sophia Jones. Before I could finish, Grandma. A loud cry echoed. The guest seemed to hear it too and chuckled softly. Margaret burst into the special suite moments later. While such behavior might not be acceptable for an employee, it wasn't something I could reprimand considering the special guest. I wasn't sure how to handle the situation, and quickly tried to excuse myself after a brief greeting. Young master, sorry, but could you stay? I'd like to ask you a few more questions. The elderly woman stopped me. Margaret, looking a bit nervous, glanced between me and her grandmother. Margaret, your behavior is a bit too rude. Her tone was sharper than before. Miss Jones. Margaret usually has excellent manners. I think she was just startled, that's all. I instinctively defended her, whose cheeks flushed bright red. The grandmother narrowed her eyes. Oh my, are you two in that kind of relationship? Looking between Margaret and me. No, we're not. We denied in unison. In truth, there was nothing between us. Oh really? She smiled enigmatically. Silently, I felt cold sweat running down my back, despite being careful to avoid any misunderstandings that could be construed as workplace misconduct. Had she seen through my feelings for Margaret? Was it obvious I harbored inappropriate thoughts? Margaret broke the tense silence by changing the subject. Grandma, showing up unannounced. Did you run away from home? Run away? Well, perhaps. But Margaret, this is for you. You seem to want to keep your job here a secret, so I snuck out to see for myself. Their exchange felt less like that of grandmother and granddaughter, and more like close friends. The two began speaking openly about what they truly wanted to say. I learned that the impressive villa up the mountain belonged to this guest, Sophia Jones, who was also the chairwoman of a major corporation. She had once stayed at Cozy and liked it so much that she bought a nearby villa. Margaret, too, loved Cozy from her childhood stays and decided to work there. She hadn't left, even when the business's finances deteriorated. After the previous owner passed away, the young master started making changes. Margaret trailed off, seemingly unsure how to phrase her thoughts tactfully. Given that I was standing right there, she couldn't say outright that my reforms had failed. So earlier, the young master mentioned I'd be the last guest. Is it really that bad? Her direct question left no room for evasion. If the business went bankrupt, it would cause significant trouble for the employees and stakeholders. So, before that happened, I decided to discuss the current situation openly and honestly, explaining why I believed it was better to close the business sooner rather than later. Sophia listened quietly and nodded. So that's how it is. While you, young master, are ready to shut things down, it seems Margaret still wants to keep working at Cozy. I understand the situation now. It's late, so you should stay here for the night as well. I left the room feeling deeply unsettled. Talking about it made the grim reality feel even more certain. But contrary to my feelings, something miraculous began happening the very next day. That morning, I was called to the garden room. Margaret had already gone to work, and only Sophia was there. I'm sorry to call you out so early, Robert. I need to discuss something important about this hotel with you. At some point, she had started calling me by my first name. And then, the reason Cozy's business has deteriorated to the point of possible closure is because of you, Robert. What? It felt like a blow to the head. Sophia's words came at me relentlessly, each one stinging more than the last. Robert, you've been entering Cozy into the wrong kind of race. Do you understand what I mean? A race. Entering? I asked, confused. Yes. Your strategy is the kind suited for competing on value in a middle-tier market. That approach is all wrong for Cozy. Though I wanted to argue, I couldn't. Sophia continued. Cozy was never meant to be just another mid-level hotel. Yet you lowered the prices and compromised on quality, turning it into something even less than mediocre. Are you saying that Cozy's downfall is my fault? Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. It's painful to hear, isn't it? But Robert, your business acumen is severely lacking. It's something you need to come to terms with. I felt crushed, staring up at Sophia in shock. I couldn't muster the energy to refute her. The clientele Cozy should be targeting is the wealthy, not the general public, and you must never forget the importance of branding it as a luxury hotel. The location, the gardens, the building, and the quality of service all were top-notch. Yet I had been using a second-rate strategy. Lowering the prices must have driven away the loyal customers. Don't you think? That was a truth I had been avoiding. But will customers still come if we raise the prices? They will. I guarantee it. Linda and Patricia's hosting is exceptional, the head chef's cooking is outstanding, the gardener's work is meticulous, and Margaret is studying diligently to contribute to the hotel, isn't she? Yes, she's been studying civil engineering. She wants to add a gazebo and a jacuzzi to the garden. Sophia smiled at this. She understands perfectly. I agree with the idea of the addition. Now we need to hire new staff right away. But there's no budget for expansions or hiring. We can't even get additional financing anymore. Hearing my desperate protest, Sophia's eyes gleamed. In that case, I have a proposal. And with that, Sophia suggested investing in Cozy and becoming a co-manager. There is a risk of being taken over, but the only one who stands to lose from that risk is me. If Cozy remains stable, the employees and stakeholders can continue as they are or even start repaying the favors they've received so far. With that in mind, the answer is clear. I've made my decision. This is Cozy's last chance at survival. Yes, I'll accept your proposal. I look forward to working with you. Sophia smiled with satisfaction. Very well. Let's get started right away. From this moment, Cozy's revival plan began. However, in the next moment, I was taken aback. Sophia declared that the room rate for the special suite, the garden room, would be increased to more than 10 times the current price. At that price, I don't think we'll get any customers. I couldn't help but voice my objections, but Sophia replied calmly, without even raising an eyebrow. I'll book the room for 2 months at the revised rate, starting today. Sophia then began paying the tenfold fee weekly. She stayed in the garden room and directly led the corporate revival effort. The next step after the price revision was securing and training staff. Linda and Patricia became trainers, each mentoring a new recruit and teaching them the responsibilities of an inn attendant. We also hired staff with the necessary certifications for behind-the-scenes roles, and Margaret was trained in customer-facing jobs like serving and attending to guests. If you want to be of use to Robert, step forward. That was Sophia's voice. At the time, I let it slide, but in hindsight, it was a significant statement, even as employees were leaving one after another. Margaret stayed with Cozy, earning certifications to support the inn. To be honest, I feel more than gratitude toward her. Of course, as her employer, I've never expressed my feelings in words or actions. But after hearing Sophia's words, I couldn't help but wonder, could Margaret feel the same? No, Cozy's revival comes first. Forget about that for now, I told myself, switching my focus. Simultaneously with staff development, renovations of the inn's facilities began. Things like air conditioning and plumbing directly affect the comfort of our guests. Even so, Sophia emphasized that convenience shouldn't ruin the historic ambience of the building. So everything from faucets to switches to furnishings was selected to blend seamlessly with the original architecture. Then came the remodeling and expansion of the garden and jacuzzi. Sophia set the direction and the big picture, while Margaret and I worked out the details. Margaret's knowledge of civil engineering proved invaluable for the jacuzzi expansion and garden renovations. As for me, I attended contract meetings after receiving guidance from Sophia and detailed explanations from Margaret. With Sophia as our mentor, Margaret and I developed a camaraderie akin to siblings in training. The new facilities enhanced not only the inn's comfort, but also my own satisfaction. Moreover, the 2 new inn attendants earned passing marks from Linda and Patricia. These 2 will also be trained for additional roles, such as managing the shop and handling front desk operations. Thanks to Sophia's investment, we can offer salaries commensurate with these roles. I decided to call myself the manager. The manager is a jack of all trades working behind the scenes. Around the time the new staff got into the rhythm of the newly restructured Cozy, Sophia's 2-month stay came to an end. 2 months ago, Sophia had said, "Take pride in providing a service worth 10 times the price." Over the course of these 2 months, we began to feel that sense of pride growing within us. It was a lovely stay. Thank you for taking such good care of me for so long. I'll be back again soon. As we bid her farewell with heartfelt gratitude, Sophia dropped another bombshell just as she was leaving. I recommended Cozy to an acquaintance, They'll be staying starting the day after tomorrow, of course under the special plan. Please give them the finest hospitality. This would be the first guest to experience the newly reborn Cozy. We worked with nervous determination to provide the best service possible. The guests departed after a week's stay, expressing their gratitude with a smile. The happiness we felt at that moment was beyond words. Afterward, Cozy consistently hosted one group of guests at a time, all stemming from Sophia's recommendation, or recommendations passed down from it. Though it was only one group at a time, the price was 10 times what it had been before. And naturally, every guest received the special plan. Both the staff and the guests were always smiling. It was a world of difference from the old Cozy. This situation lasted for about a year, until the expansion work was completed. Before we realized it, Cozy became known as a hidden gem of a hotel, accessible only by referral, and nearly impossible to book. In truth, the outwardly low profile was due to staffing shortages and renovations, which meant we couldn't guarantee guest comfort with more than one group at a time. As a result, we stopped public marketing. The website continued to be updated with seasonal photos of the garden, but we removed the address and contact information. This, by sheer coincidence, turned into a brilliant branding strategy. Our team grew, and new facilities were completed, including a gazebo in the back garden and a secluded jacuzzi. Now we could ensure complete privacy for up to 3 groups of guests. However, Cozy deliberately decided not to expand its booking channels. Everything was about delivering the best possible performance to our guests. As a result, reservations were always filled solely through referrals. Recently, we even received offers for television and magazine features, but we turned them all down. If Cozy became overhyped, its charm would be lost. That day, after seeing off the guests, I strolled through the hotel's garden, now adorned with the colors of autumn. Around 4 p.m., the golden sunlight of the season illuminated the newly built gazebo. I sat down in the gazebo. As I stretched and let myself merge with nature, "Manager, here you are." Margaret appeared. "Oh, just taking a break. Sorry, I'll head back right away." "No need. It's been a rare quiet day, and I've asked the newcomer to handle the phones." Saying so, Margaret sat down in the gazebo as well. "Manager, Cozy is in a good place now. I know it's sudden, but may I share something personal?" Margaret was both a comrade and an ally. Though we had worked closely together, we had never shared personal stories. There had been times when I wanted to talk, but I held back, considering my position as an employer, or deciding to wait until Cozy was fully revived. Sure, I was nervous. I first stayed at this hotel when I was a kid. I fell into the garden pond. I wasn't hurt, but I was so scared. That's when the manager, Robert, you comforted me. "What, me?" Margaret laughed. I felt happy and relieved. "You became my hero back then." That's why she came to love Cozy and wanted to revive it, with my grandmother's help. Or rather, it was all her doing, really. But I'm so glad Cozy is back. She took a deep breath as she said this. My original plan was to restore Cozy all on my own, and then make a dramatic exit. I thought it'd be cool. You were planning to leave, yay. But now I don't want to leave at all. The setting sun made it hard to tell, but it looked like Margaret's cheeks had turned red. Seizing the moment, I opened my mouth. "I want you to stay here forever. Be by my side and help me, the guy with 0 management skills, and spend the rest of your life with me. Marry me." Wait, I didn't mean to say that. I realized I'd said too much. All in one breath. "What? You didn't mean to?" Margaret's shy smile disappeared, replaced by a cold expression of "I'm sorry." Sorry? What are you apologizing for? Anger flashed in Margaret's eyes, then gave way to sadness as she looked down. I misspoke. Please date me with marriage in mind. I had loved Margaret for years, and I got carried away. Did I scare her off? If you're not interested, it's okay to say no. Margaret stood up and, looking both delighted and embarrassed, said yes. All right. I look forward to being with you. We gazed at each other in the beautiful autumn garden, feeling like the protagonists of a romantic story. The next day, we told Sophia at Cozy that we had started dating with marriage in mind. Sophia smiled warmly. Well, it's about time you two made up your minds. I was starting to think I'd waited in vain. She said she'd been holding onto a wedding gift for ages, worrying she might never get the chance to give it. It was the rights to Cozy, which she had already arranged with a lawyer to pass entirely to Margaret. I was grateful but insisted Sophia should stick around for many more years. Soon after, Margaret and I got married. She became the landlady, and I remained the manager. Cozy continues to offer exceptional service, bringing joy to its guests. Even today, Sophia is staying in the garden room, helping us by babysitting our great-grandchildren. Great-grandma, great-grandma. We had twins. Sophia responded to their sweet calls with a radiant smile I had never seen before. I feel bad charging her for babysitting while staying here. Margaret shook her head at my words. We're providing her with the best service possible. If Margaret and Sophia were happy with the arrangement, so was I. I might lack business acumen, but being a manager suits me well. Margaret is a dependable landlady, and our Cozy continues to provide the finest service to its guests.